the Republican Party has decided that its path back to power is complete and total fealty to Donald Trump, and they're purging anyone who refuses to repeat his lies about the 2020 election, no matter how destructive it is for the country. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. It is exceedingly rare in the history of this country for a political party to stay so closely tied to an ex-president, let alone one who is as deeply unpopular as Donald Trump. What we're seeing right now in the Republican Party is not usually how the process unfolds after a party loses power, especially in a landslide amid a once-in-a-century cataclysm. And let's remember, the GOP didn't just lose. They got wiped out. They lost the presidency in both houses of Congress. Trump never once cracked 50% job approval and never won the popular vote. Meanwhile, President Biden is riding high with a 63% approval ratings in a new poll out today. The GOP is treating Trump like a good luck charm even after he brought them terrible luck. If the first time Dumbo tried to fly, he plummeted to the ground and broke all four legs in both ears, he would have let go of the feather. And yet the GOP is still fully enthralled to Trump, who oversaw the worst economic crash and unemployment crisis in a century, rising poverty and child hunger, and a disastrous pandemic response that left hundreds of thousands of Americans dead. Not to mention that violent insurrection where he incited a mob of rioters to ransack the Capitol and disrupt the lawful counting of electoral votes. You remember that? Somehow it feels like it was approximately 800 years ago, when in reality it happened in January. Now Trump's shuffling around his golf course like it never happened, popping up in photos like a retired Bigfoot, and interrupting weddings and other private events to drone on about his deranged belief that he actually won the election.
The former president himself is still waxing poetic about finding irregularities right around the corner, apparently living in an alternate reality down at Mar-a-Lago.
Watch Arizona. Some very interesting things are happening in Arizona, right? You know about that. We just had a great ruling, or actually the Senate, the state Senate of Arizona. Let's see what they find. I wouldn't be surprised if they found thousands and thousands and thousands of votes. So we're going to watch that very closely. And after that, you'll watch Pennsylvania, and you'll watch Georgia, and you're going to watch Michigan and Wisconsin. We did get 75 million votes. Nobody's ever gotten that. They said, get 66 million votes, sir, and the election's over. Well, I got 75 million, and they said, but you know, you saw what happened. 10:30 in the evening, all of a sudden they said, that's a strange thing. Why are they closing up certain places, right? You know, a lot of things happening right now. I just wanted to say, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to have you at Mar-a-Lago. You are a great and beautiful couple.
In fairness to Trump, it's very hard to do stand-up comedy when you're opening for a band. I mean, he's just going from room to room at Mar-a-Lago, interrupting the most sacred moments in people's lives to whine about his election loss, like Bill Murray with a head injury. You're going to find thousands of votes in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona. A lot of things are happening with the mail ballots and the signature match. I said, you got to check the signatures. And they say, sir, we can't, sir. And I said, that's a strange thing, isn't it? Anyway, enjoy the bris. Let me know if you need a oil. I got a guy. So good. So good. He also cuts Rudy's hair. Although, I'm guessing if you hold a wedding reception at Mar-a-Lago at this point, you're counting on Trump popping in. It's like having a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. The rat better be there, or there's going to be hell to pay. What do you mean it's Chuck's days off? Well, technically he's in the shop because he had a mechanical error that made it look like he was giving kids a middle finger, but we like to tell him he has the day off. What am I supposed to tell my son whose birthday it is and who was dying to meet Chuck E. Cheese? You could tell him Jasper T. Giles is still here. Nobody likes Jasper T. Giles. Also, sometimes Donald Trump rolls through and complains about Brad Raffensperger. And by the way, that insane Arizona audit he referenced is the same one you may have heard, where Republicans are reportedly searching for bamboo on ballots to find out if they were smuggled in from Asia.
The other day at the press conference, you were talking about bamboo. What was that about?
Well, is that there's accusations that 40,000 ballots were flown in.
To Arizona?
Into Arizona, and it was stuffed into the box, okay? And it came from the southeast part of the world, Asia, okay? And what they're doing is to find out if there's bamboo in the paper. That camera right there, that they take a picture of the ballot, they can really look at depth and find out, is it a hand-marked paper ballot? Because it's a 5K camera.
And why do you check for
because
bamboo?
They use bamboo in their paper processing.
Who's they?
People in Southeast Asia.
They're using a 5K camera to find out if there's bamboo in the paper to see if the ballots came from Southeast Asia. Imagine going to Best Buy to get the camera and explaining that's what it's for. Are you looking for something for family photos or something more professional? Well, I'm looking for something that can detect strands of bamboo on ballots. Why are you calling store security? Is that bamboo on your shirt? Guys, they're on to me. Oh, damn it. Do you also have those like secret wrist microphones? Also, what a waste of a 5K camera. This is an actual television show, and I'm pretty sure we have at best 1.5Ks. I don't even know what the K in 5K stands for. I try to find out, but whenever I ask, my crew tells me it stands for it's none of your business. K? When I was in my attic during quarantine, I had to film myself on my own iPad because NBC refused to send actual TV cameras to my house. They said a 5K camera would be wasted on bits about the Thornbirds, a magic door, and the wasps I befriended, and they definitely did not like the sea captain. The programming execs sat me down and said to me, and this is true, why won't the sea captain work for a dolphin? And I said, why? And they said, because he serves no porpoise. Who let the sea captain write a joke? For real. In May? By the way, just to clarify, the guy who explained that whole insane bamboo ballot theory doesn't believe it, as he explained later in the interview.
So that you feel like
That's what they say.
40,000 ballots have been.
Yeah, I don't believe any of that.
Okay.
I'm just saying that is part of the mystery that we want to ungaslight people about, and this is a way to do
This is
it.
part of what you're looking at.
I'm not. They are.
Poor guy. These people are so crazy that if you explain what they believe, people think you're crazy. They're crazy as airborne. For some reason, it fell to him to explain to the press what these people are looking for. It's like coming home from work and trying to calmly explain to your wife that you're late for dinner because a guy on the F train pulled the emergency brake because he thought a cockroach stole his cigarette. So he claimed, and again, these are his words, a cockroach came up to him and asked him 4 directions to the nearest OTB, and while he was looking, again, his words, the cockroach reached into his pocket and stole his Marlboro Light. I don't know, that's what he said. Sorry. It's a true story. I just needed a smoke. I'm a little stressed out. The Mets can't hit with runners in scoring position. This cigarette tastes weird. Is this bamboo? Does anyone on the train have a 5K camera? Anyway, the point is, this is what the Republican Party has committed itself to. Most political parties would move on and engage in some level of introspection and self-assessment after being repeatedly rejected by a majority of voters and losing power entirely. They'd also move on from a president who was both deeply unpopular and left the nation in ruins. Instead, Republicans are intensifying their devotion to Trump. They're in the process right now of pushing Wyoming Congressman Liz Cheney out of a leadership role simply because she affirmed the basic reality: Trump lost the election, and called the idea that it was stolen from him a toxic lie that undermines democracy. And again, as I've said many times now, I do not want to side with Liz Cheney. She's not a hero. She's a pro-war torture apologist who stood by Trump in 2016 and during his first impeachment trial and helped build the modern GOP into what it is today. She's as much to blame for the rise of Trumpism as anyone else in Republican leadership. I don't want to support her any more than I want to hang out with Jasper T. Jowls. It's just that now she's being purged for simply stating the reality that Trump lost and there was no widespread fraud. And now Republicans want to replace her with New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, a Trump loyalist who has repeated his debunked election lies and said last week on Steve Bannon's podcast that she supports the nutty Arizona election audit.
What are your thoughts about what's going on in Arizona?
I fully support the audit in Arizona. We want transparency and answers for the American people. What are the Democrats so afraid of? The voters in Arizona and the state Senate in Arizona pursued this audit. I fully support it. Transparency is a good thing. We need to fix these election security issues going into the future.
What election security issues? Strands of bamboo on ballots smuggled in from Asia? What's next? We're also using a 5K camera to look for microscopic marinara stains to make sure no ballots were secretly smuggled in from Italy. I personally witnessed an Antifa fraudster sneak into the counting room with a calzone stuffed with pepperoni and fraudulent ballots. This is all that matters in today's GOP, your willingness to repeat Trump's deranged lies about the election and codify them into law through voter suppression bills that will let Republicans steal the next election. That's why Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was on Fox News last week, signing a voter suppression bill surrounded by fawning Trump fans. Over the weekend, GOP Congressman Jim Banks said he supported Cheney's ouster and essentially accused her of abandoning Republicans by acknowledging reality.
Do you still question whether or not Joe Biden won the election fair and square and got over 270 electoral votes fair and square?
Yeah, Chris, I stand by my vote to object on January 6th. I stand by the Texas lawsuit because I have serious concerns about how the election in November was carried out.
When Liz Cheney says history is watching and you can't go forward until you resolve this question, the election was fair and square, Donald Trump played a negative role, you think she's misguided making those points?
Yeah, I've called on Liz Cheney to rejoin the Republican team and help us go out and win the majority in the midterm election.
I've called Liz Cheney to rejoin the Republican team, to acknowledge that there are serious concerns about the election and to admit that we are, in fact, living in the matrix. That's why I'm supporting, as her replacement, Morpheus, who has made some very persuasive points about voter fraud, and he knows Kung Fu. Learned it in a day. But listen to what he said. That's actually a fairly shocking admission. He essentially said Cheney is abandoning Republicans by acknowledging reality, meaning that they're two separate things. Republicans don't live in reality. In fact, in order to be a member of this Republican Party, you have to abandon reality. It's like insisting to your children that the guy in the Mickey Mouse costume is the actual Mickey Mouse, even though your kids are now 35 years old. You can either rejoin this family on our annual trip to Typhoon Lagoon and acknowledge that Mickey Mouse is a real person, or you can get the hell out of here. And are you smoking another one of those bamboo cigarettes? Did you steal that from a cockroach? Guilty. Is that as popular a recurring character that we think it is? Cigarette smoking cockroach? We'll find out in the old comments. And even, by the way, we did a full clip about Donald Trump crashing weddings. No Vince Vaughn. That's restraint. And even Republicans who are no longer in office, like Chris Christie, are blaming Cheney for her choice to simply live in reality, rather than Republicans for lying about the election and dismantling democracy.
I think Liz is doing what she wants to do. I don't think Liz wants to be in leadership anymore, because once she won the vote earlier, she continued to press this issue publicly in a way that was antagonizing the people who were against her. And I think you don't have an entitlement to be in leadership.
Think about how sad it is to still be loyal to a guy like Trump after everything he put Chris Christie through. Among all the other humiliations Christie's suffered, Trump once forced him to eat meatloaf at the White House, a place where they famously will literally make anything for you. Mr. Christie, before you order, we have the most exquisite culinary creations you can imagine from a chef who lives here on the premises. He'll have the meatloaf. Bring him a side of ketchup. And Christie is still sticking by Trump. Maybe that's what you have to do to keep your job in this Republican Party. In order to demonstrate your fealty to Trump, you have to lie about the election and eat a giant plate of meatloaf on TV while he insults your wife and your dad, and then for good measure kicks you in the balls. Don't worry, boss. I'm wearing a cup. It's great because it doubles as a mask. Any sane political party would move on from a president who was both deeply unpopular, lost by a wide margin, and on top of everything else, left nothing but misery and destruction in his wake. And yet Republicans are not moving on. They're doubling down. They're as committed to Trump as ever. And now they don't care much about how they have to lie or debase themselves to prove their loyalty to him. Republicans are looking at Trump's election lies and their own voter suppression bills and saying,
You are a great and beautiful couple.
This has been A Closer Look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaccinated. We love you.